Let's try this again. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in the questions. All right, I don't know what's going on right now. Apparently the Wi-Fi is not doing great right now. But basically what's going to happen is I'm going to wait for a few minutes, let people hop on, and I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between this and the stream. I'll be checking the live chat over here on my screen. It might be over here on your screen, one of the two. But you guys can type in questions here, and I'll be able to respond to them in live time. Other than that, I'll just kind of be going back to the speakers list, so to speak, and running through the document that we've got up on the Google Classroom. So if you need to drop a question in there, please drop it at the very bottom so that it doesn't mess with the flow. And I'm mostly just going to rock through those and keep on rolling. So here we go, pulling that up. And then let me just make sure my camera's working real quick. All right, so, okay. All right, so first of all, the first question that we've got here is, can I please do a recap of the Neolithic Revolution? And absolutely. So basically, the Neolithic Revolution is an ongoing process that happens between the Paleolithic era and the Neolithic era. And we refer to this as either the Neolithic Revolution or as the Agricultural Revolution. Sometimes the two of them are used interchangeably, but the Neolithic Revolution implies kind of a broader process. So basically what happens for that is over a elongated period of time, mankind kind of stops living such a nomadic lifestyle and starts living a more sedentary one. A lot of people attribute this directly to agriculture. So as the climate warms and people are able to use different crops to sustain themselves, what they end up doing is staying in one spot in order to take care of these crops. Because of that, cities start to grow up, and as these cities grow up, we start to see more and more people kind of converge on those. Other big indicating factors that the Neolithic Revolution is coming to a close, you start to see polished tools rather than stone chipped ones. You see stone tools that are polished. And you also see the domestication not only of plants in the way of agriculture, but also of pastoral animals. So the domestication of animals is also a big key factor there. Once that goes on, that's where we really start to see the rise of civilization, is following the Neolithic Revolution from the Paleolithic nomadic style to the sedentary Neolithic style. And then even after the Neolithic Revolution, of course, it takes a long while for those cities to kind of build up. Next question is, how would you describe the government of the Greek Spartans and of the Roman Empire if you had to classify them? First of all, I really like the fact that you use Greek Spartans because, as we've said a lot in class, Greek is a culture, not a country. So Sparta would be kind of a single case study of something in Greece. And so Sparta, I would classify that as, that one's a little bit tricky because it does have two kings. So it couldn't really be a monarchy because there are two kings. And then it also has a council. So I would classify Sparta probably most likely as an oligarchy. And I believe that would be what Plato also classifies it as. The Roman Empire, on the other hand, well, first we have the 7 Etruscan kings. That would be a monarchy. Following that would be the republic, in which they elect representatives for the Senate and for the tribune. And then finally, we've got the Roman Empire proper, where you have the emperors ruling over it. And that would be kind of a blend between, I suppose, a monarchy and a theocracy, because on one hand, it is a monarchy, one person is in control, and on the other hand, it could be construed as a theocracy because the Roman emperors did take a claim of divinity from their gods as well. Question number 3, can you explain the key parts of Chinese dynasties, the Xia, the Shou, and the Shang? For those 3, the Xia, what you really need to know about them is that is the starting point, and we're not really entirely sure if they existed or not. They are potentially mythical. and if anything, at least exaggerated versions of the truth. And they pretty much exist to legitimize the rule of the Shang, is the way that a lot of historians have come to look at the Xia. So key aspects of them, basically, they got worse and worse and worse until the Shang took over. When the Shang do take over, the Shang are there during the Bronze Age. So we see them work with bronze, we see them cultivate silk for the first time. And we also, the only reason we know so much about the Shang is because of these writings on oracle bones. So they were the first ones with a solid system of writing. Moving forward from them, we have the Zhou, and the Zhou take over the same way that we see the Shang take over, only they put a name to it. So in their history books, they refer to the Shang as getting more and more corrupt. To the point where the last Shang emperor, they wrote a book that he roasted his critics on a rack, turned some of them into mincemeat, and turned some of them into dried meat. So maybe an exaggeration there, just maybe. But the whole point is that the Shang got more and more corrupt, more and more cruel to their people, and eventually the Zhou claimed that they stepped in because the Shang had lost what they called the mandate of heaven. And so really what you need to know about the Zhou is they claim that for the mandate of heaven, and in addition to that, the Zhou are the longest reigning Chinese dynasty, lasting for about 700 years. We know the Warring States period existed due to conflict between states, but why exactly did this conflict arise? Was it due to dynasties competing? Yes, absolutely, because whenever the Zhou started losing power following the spring and autumn period, they lost more and more power, but no one family was strong enough, like the Zhou were, to step in and take over, following what they viewed as the loss of the mandate of heaven. So while we deem that this is still technically part of the Zhou dynasty definitely didn't have control over all of what we considered to be China at that time. So it was due to different dynasties trying to compete for that position of the highest power, that with the mandate of heaven. And over a couple hundred years, that just kind of got confused and got lost. What would we need to study about the Qin and Han dynasties? First, the Qin, all about legalism. The Qin were able to put an end to the Warring States period because of that system of legalism, because they were so strict and because they were so stringent. Again, they only ruled for 19-ish years. And then once that rule was over, there was a small period where there was still a power struggle, and then eventually the Han would take control. The Han dynasty, on the other hand, used a system of Confucianism. And you have the emergence of the civil service exam, that exam that you have to take to prove that you study Confucianism, that you are capable of running a government in order to work in the government. So that civil service exam is huge for the Han. In addition, both the Qin and Han are deemed with creating the Great Wall of China, but the Great Wall wouldn't be the same as the Great Wall that you guys are familiar with. Instead, it was a smaller Great Wall a little bit further south. Hang on, I'm seeing some questions pop up in the chat. The Shang are not a type of people. That the Shang are instead a dynasty, a family. So they would be like a familial name. That would be like if the Boudreaux took control, because, you know, it happens from time to time. Yep. Shang is a dynasty. There we go. Dynasty led by a particular ruler. The Shang dynasty, you don't need to know any particular rulers from that. Just worry about the Shang dynasty. Oh, bless. Okay, so it's just, the chat's just going crazy for no reason. All right, next up, ethical systems. Each one are going to be important. Yes, absolutely. Legalism, Confucianism, and Taoism, those are big time important. You need to know the difference between them. Taoism is all about balance, and they believe that you don't want government because in trying to set up order, you have to balance that out with even more chaos. Confucianism is important because the Han Dynasty adapt that, and that becomes kind of the baseline for all of the following Chinese dynasties that we'll be talking about. And then legalism is what enabled an end to that Warring States period. As cruel as it might have been, it was the pushback. And ironically, I would say the Taoist balance to what the Warring States period was all about. The people that you need to know from Rome, Greece, and Persia, the people that you need to know, I mean, you're definitely going to need to know the big ones like Caesar Augustus. You'll need to know for Persia Cyrus the Great, who is Cyrus the Second. In addition, Darius the First is the one who divides the empire into satrapies. And then, I'm not sure if you need to know him or not, but know him anyway. You have Xerxes. Xerxes is the son of Darius who goes back to war with Greece following their first defeat. He's the one that we see in the Battle of Thermopylae, the one with the 300 Spartans, the guard for King Leonidas. Let's see, Greek people that you'll need to know. You need to know your mathematicians and your philosophers. So the processing that we did over them, that's the key people that you really need to know. You need to know Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. You need to know the mathematicians, all of them, all three of them. We only studied really three of them. So yes, all of those people are fair game for the test. Rome, I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure it's just Caesar that you absolutely need to know. And then maybe Caesar Augustus. So Caesar would be the first one to claim that he was emperor, even though I don't think that the rest of Rome would have agreed with him on that. And in addition to Caesar, you have Augustus, and he called himself the first citizen of Rome. He didn't really call himself emperor. He was the one, though, who really starts the empire of Rome. Because following Caesar, he basically does Caesar 2.0, goes on civil war, follows the exact same path to ruling as his uncle did, and then after that, he kind of was able to keep on rolling. Let's see, do we need to know what the mathematicians and philosophers for Greece did? Yes, you absolutely need to know what they did. So for example, the mathematicians that you would need to know, let's say, let's go with Pythagoras. You need to know that he was the one who figured out that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the philosophers you would need to know, like, for example, Plato's Republic and his definitions of the different governments. That would be kind of one of those big things. So that's what I kind of mean by you need to know your Greek people. All right, any further questions regarding the people of Greece, Rome, and Persia that you guys might want? Supreme Lord, I do see you there, man. Plato was Socrates' student. Absolutely, Rup. Plato was Socrates' student, and then Aristotle was Plato's student, and then Alexander the Great was Aristotle's student. So that's kind of the lineage that goes down right there. Okay, I'm sorry. The focus on this is autofocus. I'm going to try and turn it off real quick.